Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. What do you guys do at, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning? Books, fun stuff. It's almost 4 o'clock in the morning and I am definitely playing with my books. 'Cause that's what I do in the middle of the night. I'm putting together my TBR for February and trying to finish some books that I was hoping to be done with by the end of January for specific reasons. I've moved all the books that I don't need to finish by the end of January out of the section where my TBR has been sitting for January, so that all that's in that stack is the ones that I actually kind of needed to read this month. Someday I will read those first. Maybe in February. We'll see. So both of the events that I've been reading a lot of books for in January, the TBR-thon and the Adventurer-thon, are wrapping up this round at the end of the month. It is the 30th now. It will therefore be the 31st by 24 hours from now, so I have more than 24 hours of reading time left, but I still have to sleep somewhere in there. Twice, probably, between now and the end of the month. I'm having to come to terms with the fact that I can't finish all the books that I need to finish in January, and kind of prioritizing which ones I really want to be done with and which ones I can be okay with not being done with yet, which is hard. And the book I really want to finish right now is my audiobook, which is not one I need to finish by the end of January. But I'm getting really into it. I like it. So I need to set it aside and focus on the ones that I need to finish for a few more days. And then none of my audiobooks are going to expire at the end of this month anyway, so yeah. So that's beside the point of my TBR. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be doing a couple videos that are going to be sort of tangentially related to this video. One trend or topic that's popped up in YouTube and some of the YouTube circles I follow is talking about reading projects, and this idea that reading projects, to quote one of them, or to paraphrase, I think I'm paraphrasing here, the reading projects are the new reading challenge, or reading challenges, or basically what I do all the time, other people do that too, and it's got a name for it now, and people are talking about it, and that's really cool, because I'm not quite so weird as I was, because now everybody else is joining that bandwagon or something. I think I'm still that weird. I think other people are just trying it out too, or I'm in my tribe and there are a lot of other people equally weird. I don't know. I definitely read books in projects and sort them out in my head like that. And there's always things going on, obviously, that are not connected to those projects. But if you've been watching my videos for a while, there are definitely things like the Box Halls Reading Challenge and the Guardian novels, 1,000 novels challenge. All of these are lists of books that a few crazy people decide it's a list, therefore we must read them all. And there are groups for that. And some of us are really intending to read them all. On list challenges, those lists are available to check your progress off. It's wonderful. So I do have other projects as well, and my February TBR is incorporating some of those. So let's see where I put them this time. All right. Bring some of my TBR books over so we can play with them. So this is not an author that's been on my TBR recently, but I think I've done videos with it, with Louis L'Amour books popping up. I did finish some in the fall and early in the winter last year. But Louis L'Amour and Andre Norton are two of the authors that my sister and I have been working on reading for a couple years now. We actually listed out all of them, and we've been checking them off and acquiring them. To track down, is this a separate book or is it just a different title for the same book, that kind of thing. Both of these authors, there are some books that are ambiguous like that when you look at the lists of books. And they both wrote a lot of short stories that got republished in various collections throughout their lives and afterwards. So the short stories, I really am tempted to just find like the complete short stories for both of these authors at some point. Just read them all. And then any book of short stories by either of them, I can just check it off because I've read all those stories. Because at some point I don't need to read 5 different configurations of basically the same stories. So I haven't quite gone that far yet, but I really am leaning towards that. It kind of throws off my counting what books I've completed for challenges, but yeah. For now, I'm just going to read the books that are on my shelves because I have plenty for both authors that I can focus on before I get to the dealing with the short story collections problem. And I have several short story collections on my shelves as well, so I could read those first. Anyway, so for February, these are just examples. Knave of Dreams for Andre Norton, and West from Singapore by Louis L'Amour. This one's a more unusual Louis L'Amour book because it's not really a Western. So that'll be interesting. I haven't read very many non-Westerns by him, like 2 or 3 maybe. So there will be others from both of those authors. I'm not going to hold up all of the books I have by them, partly since I moved last year at the end of the year. I'm still sorting all my books, and as I find books by those 2 authors, I'm just putting them aside so I can get them all back together. So every week I'm going to try and finish at least one of each of them so that I can complete both authors this year. I used to do that a lot more regularly, and I just haven't been. Both of them tend to write really short books, so I could read several in a day if I was doing reading sprints. So that is definitely a project I'm going to be focused on. Hermann Hesse is an author I've been working on for a while. I've read most of his works that are translated into English. I don't know if there's other books by Hesse that are still just in the German. So that's something I need to look into. I always assumed when I was younger that, everything's going to have been translated by now because it's Hermann Hesse, of course. But there are a lot of books that people just don't assume that Americans need to read. I don't know. So I need to look into that and see if there's anything where I still need to brush up on my German and try to read something in German. I haven't done that yet. I have a few books in German by Kafka. So sometime this year I might try to actually read a classic in German. which I haven't actually done before. I've done short stories, but not a whole book. So, anyway, Hermann Hesse, Narcissus, and Goldemund. I think it's on the Boxhall's 1001 list. It might be on the Guardian's 1000 novels list. I know it's on a list. And it's one of the few Hesse books I've not read yet in the English translations. So I'm going to try and tackle that for February, because that'll be one step closer to being done with Hermann Hesse. I do really love his books, some of them not so much. So I don't know which direction this one will go. I'm also adding a John Irving book. I've been working on reading all of John Irving for a while too. This is the fourth hand. It's relatively short for a John Irving book, so I'm anticipating that should go pretty well. I do enjoy most of his books, even the really long ones. They don't seem like they're ridiculously long. And he's one of those people that can combine random things, kind of along the lines of a Clive Cussler, but a different genre. So that's always fun. We have Ray Bradbury, another author that my sister and I have been working on reading for quite a while. And I love Ray Bradbury stories. They haven't aged as well as far as my enjoying them still as a 40-something. Some of his writing appealed to me so much when I was a kid. And now that I reread it, it's okay. But he's not completely reliable. Some of his books are just okay. I will admit that. However, if you haven't read Ray Bradbury yet and you're thinking about it, there are some books by him that are amazing, and you should definitely read them. So, if you haven't read Ray Bradbury, I would say read Dandelion Wine and Something Wicked This Way Comes, and then see what you think. He also wrote a lot of short stories. S is for Space, R is for Rocket. Yeah, start with those. I love The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit, but I don't think it's in print anymore. I think that's my favorite collection. Anyway, so From the Dust Returned is on my TBR for February. I am looking forward to it. Usually I really like Ray Bradbury. I counted to 24 on one of my shelves. Just randomly picked a shelf, randomly picked a direction to count from. 24 is the number that was picked for the Reading 1001 TBR challenge. So the book that I'm going to be reading for that challenge is actually right here. I will be reading a Conrad book, Joseph Conrad, Lord Jim, which is mercifully short. I've liked some of Conrad's books, but not all of them. But that one's at least short, and that will be for extra points for that game for February. It will be even better if I finish The Buddha of Suburbia before the end of this month, because it's one of those games where you get cumulative rewards. So the rewards for future months will be higher if I can keep up the reading the book each month pattern up to I think March or so is when the extra points get bigger. But if I miss one, I have to start over from the base level. So that one's going to be the extra points book for next month for that game. So that's also why I counted to 24. And this was the 24th book on that shelf. So Isabel Allende, Daughter of Fortune, is on my TBR for February as kind of a random pick. I have read several Allende books. I don't know if any of them are super favorites, but she seems to be a reliably good author, at least. One reading project that I've started that has sort of grown over the last week or so is reading the Dublin Literary Award books. So initially I watched Eric Carl Anderson's video about that awards long list for 2024, which is 70 books, which is a lot of books, but I read a lot of books. And I've been meaning to read a lot more modern books because my collection tends to be the books that show up on free shelves, which means they're not usually modern books. They're old enough that somebody has gotten rid of them, so they're not this year's books. And while I probably won't like all of them, I might like a lot more of them than I think I will, just because there's a lot of books on that list. Anyway, so I decided that the Dublin Literary Award, the nominees are sent in by libraries, which means that there's a bigger chance that the library that I am using locally either has some of the books in print or in e-audiobooks or something, or that I can get them through interlibrary loan to my library. So it seems like a good award to be doing this kind of reading project on, if you're a poor person that can't buy a lot of books. I might actually be able to get all 70 of those books within a reasonable amount of time, and actually have some idea of whether I agree with the short list and the prize winner for that award. So that was the initial idea of the plan. And then I looked at what's called the library on the Dublin Literary Award website, which is all of their, I don't know if it's all of their nominees or all of their shortlist nominees. I didn't go that far into poking around on it. But it's a whole bunch of books that have been nominated or have won that award. And on that list, I think it's 81 pages of books. And I clicked through all of it and checked off the ones that I finished. And I've read 110 of the books that are in the Dublin Literary Award library section. And of the books I've read, I actually really liked a lot of them. And a lot of them were those obscure but recent books that nobody I know has read, but they were really good, and I want to talk about them with people, but nobody else has read them, which is part of why I started my BookTube channel. So apparently the tastes of the people that are involved in this award match mine enough that it might be worth reading all of the books in their library. And so the way I'm going to play it is this. I'm going to focus on the long list for this year. But I'm also going to keep an eye out for all the books from the library section that include all those books from previous years. And when I come across them, I will acquire them and read them. So now the exceptions to my not buying books or acquiring books before I've finished 20 each month of my own books. The exception so far is that if it's on the Boxall 1001 list, I can get it anyway because I've been working on that project for years, since about 2007, and I'm not going to forego the opportunity to acquire the books I'm still missing just because I'm doing a Read What You Own challenge. Why would I do that to myself? So I'm adding in the books in the library section of the Dublin Literary Award to the exceptions where I'm allowed to acquire them, even if I haven't finished 20 books yet for the month. So that said, the first book that I'm reading for that project is one that I acquired for a quarter, because it's a paperback, from one of my favorite cheap book sources. It's a book shed that's in a little town near me, and I'd never heard of this book before. It just had a rhinoceros on the cover, and I recognized the print because I used to do printmaking. Like, oh, I don't usually see prints that I recognize on the covers of books. And it was a quarter. So apparently this is one of the books that was nominated for the Dublin Literary Award in a previous year. So since I already have it, I've bumped it up into my TBR. So this will hopefully be the first book that I finish for that project, along with 2 audiobooks that I've checked out. An Astronomer in Love and I don't remember the other one. Anyway, I will talk about them when I finish them if I finish them in the next week. Anyway, so I've got 3 books total for this project that will be showing up. Yeah, it's one of those, like, as soon as I'm not trying to remember the name of that book, I will remember that book. Yeah. And then I've got a couple more reading projects that I'm trying to get back into the spin of my TBRs. The Doctor Who books. I've got a bunch of them that I still have to read. Another thing my sister and I have been working on reading. So I'm going to be reading a Matt Smith Doctor Who book. This is The Dalek Generation by Nicholas Briggs. I've read a few of his before, and I do remember them being pretty good. He seems to do a pretty decent job about making the characters true to what they are in the show. Some of them not so much. I've read a few where you would have no idea which Doctor it was if you didn't have the cover to look at, because they just didn't write them very well. But I think this one should be good. I have Clive Cussler, another one of those authors that I've been working on for a few years. And I was reading them all in order, but I kind of fell off of that, and I was using the excuse that I didn't have whichever book that I stalled out on to just not read anymore, which was kind of silly. So I'm just going to read this one, and if it's not in order, that's fine, because I've read so many of them now that, you know, it's not really that important anymore. So Inca Gold by Clive Cussler. I don't mind his sexist characters nearly as much as some people do. I will admit that Dirk Pitt is a bit obnoxious sometimes, but he's kind of shtick obnoxious. He's so obnoxious that it's funny, and it's really obviously put on and meant to be funny. So I don't mind that so much. He's a cliche. He walks into a room and all the women swoon kind of character, but very tongue-in-cheek. And actually, once he meets his wife, he's really not sleeping with every woman that pops up. They might like him and he might flirt, but he's not actually in bed with every woman that pops up. So it's not quite as bad as some heroes in books like this. So anyway, Clive Cussler, Inca Gold, should be fun. And then I've been doing a lot of reading sprints, And in some of the reading sprints, we've been talking about Stephen King and books that might be good to start on for Stephen King. And Katie from I Would Rather Be Reading had wanted to start Stephen King and decided she wants to do a read-along of a Stephen King book. And I think we're doing it in February. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure we chose February for this book because everybody else is grabbing theirs. I'm pretty sure that's what the plan is. It is 4 o'clock in the morning, though, so I could be wrong. I don't think I am. We are reading 11/22/63. What is this title referring to? If you're not American, you are excused for not knowing. But a lot of people who are not American probably still know that Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. This is a book about the Kennedy assassination. And it sounds interesting. I'm trying not to know more than I already know about it before I start the book, because I really do like to go in to almost every book I read as close to blind as possible. Some books it's easier than others. I'm going to try to just start it and see what I think without knowing what it's supposed to be doing. We'll see how that goes. And that will be with quite a few other people. And we will probably have several sprints where we're all kind of trying to make progress on it. But it's not a super formal thing so far. So I don't know if there's going to be a schedule or anything like that. I'm not hosting that at all. I'm just one of the people that happened to be there at the time and suggested or agreed on the suggestion of this book. So, yeah, I will be reading that one in February, which will mean that I will have hopefully finished a Stephen King book every month so far this year. Because I did Dreamcatcher for January. So, I hadn't actually thought about it like that. That might be another reading project. A Stephen King book every month for the year of 2024. Ooh. This might happen. Because I do have a lot of Stephen King on hand that I haven't read. I have finished about 50% of his books, but I have a lot of the ones I haven't read yet. So, anyway, that sounds fun. One of the things I was doing during reading sprints when I got too tired of my book, I was poking around at what else people are doing in February. And, I'm not into romance. I'm really not. I know February is, Valentine's Day, but after my one romance in January, I reminded myself of just how little the romance story arc does for me. It may just be that in my current lifestyle, it's just not something that's particularly salient. So, I don't know. I'm just not into it. So, I'm not looking at Valentine's Day oriented events this year at all. But I did find a couple that were not about Valentine's Day that sound really intriguing. The first one, oh my goodness, this is definitely a thing that I should be doing, is the Cat Lady Readathon, which I think is in its second year. It is hosted by Liene Reads, and it looks fun. She's got it set up with 2 bingo boards for prompts. One of them's a reading bingo board and one of them's not. A lot of the prompts have to do with cats, of course, being cat lady and all. And since I'm a kitten rescuer, I kind of have to at least put in a token effort for this one. So I do have one book that I could find just offhand that will be on my TBR for this readathon. The Pawful Truth by Miranda James. And I will be keeping an eye out for other cat-related books, especially cozy mysteries. I seem to like a lot of those. I've already finished quite a lot of them, but there are lots more. And there's got to be other cat-related non-cozy books as well. I do have some of the non-fiction kind of feel-good sort of memoirs about cats kind of things. So I'll track those down. Those are definitely ones where the fact that I'm still sorting my books after moving comes in. I don't really know where some of those are. So they will be added to my TBR as I find them. But I definitely will be doing that event. I will put the information in the description. If you also want to join the Cat Lady Readathon, this should be such a more popular thing than it is, because oh my goodness, who doesn't want to read books for a Cat Lady Readathon? Yeah. The next one that caught my eye that sounds like a lot of fun is Folklore February. And both Cat Lady and Folklore are month-long events. So they start at the beginning of February and run to the end of February. I like those because I don't have to know what day it is. This is good. So Folklore February is hosted by Cat's Novel Adventures and is about fairy tales and fables and legends and myths and all that fun stuff. So for this one, the first books that came to mind from my shelves that I knew exactly where they were and had to track down a stool so I could get to them and are two Penguin Classics edition books. This one is American Supernatural Tales. That lovely cat on the cover. And African Myths of Origin. So I will be reading these in February. Because they are collections of shorter works, I will probably just start both of them, just read the first one and just keep them going for a while, rather than trying to sit down and read them cover to cover in a day or two. I do that sometimes, though. It just depends on if I'm in the mood for them when I start them. If you haven't seen other videos where I mention it, I am on the autistic spectrum, and sometimes when I start a book, even if it's something that seems like most people don't sit down and just read the whole thing, if it clicks my attention just right, it'll be done by morning. And, it does happen. And if I stay in an interest for long enough, I can finish a lot of books in that interest area before I run out of steam and need to switch to something else. So right now I'm riding the wave of Chinese history and culture. And I am interested enough that I've added some books to my TBR to continue that theme. So I'll show them in a sec, but we'll finish the Folklore February before I get totally distracted. I don't know how much this one relates because I haven't read it yet. I'm trying not to know too much about it, but it is mentioned in the back that it's similar to Possession, which I just finished. And Possession, while it was about two academics and trying to track down stuff about poets, the chapters that were poetry that I listened to, because otherwise I might not have properly read them, were more fairy tales than anything else. They were, in that genre of storytelling, in verse. So, knowing that, and knowing that several of the other books I've read by A.S. Byatt also had a strong theme of storytelling and fables and fairy tales. I'm putting this one on the TBR in connection with the Folklore February. It may or may not actually turn out to be that strong a connection, but that's why it's been added. And this was on my TBR for January. I did not get to it. That's cool. And this may be another author that I read one of every month until I run out. Because while I was looking around on my shelves, I have at least one more, maybe two, books by A.S. Byatt. So this might be something I continue doing for a few months. I am finishing my reread of the Dark is Rising series. It is a 5-book series. I finished 2 in December for Remember December. So I'm going to finish the rest of those. They're definitely based around legends and myths connected to Great Britain in some way. I don't remember offhand what the folkloric stuff is in The Grey King or Silver on the Tree. Oversea Under Stone is partly, I think, about the standing stones. I don't remember a lot of it because it's been a while, which is why I'm rereading them. The other two, the first one, The Dark is Rising, is centered around the folkloric elements of Christian traditions. So, old songs and symbols and stuff like that. Fun stuff. I don't remember the name offhand of the second book in that series. But it's about Green Man. So the second book in that series is about Green Man. Although I think it's one of those like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then Horse and His Boy, and The Magician's Nephew, where the publication order and the chronological order for the story don't match. Oversea Under Stone introduces characters that pop into the one about the Green Man, and they meet the main character from The Dark is Rising, and so ideally you want to read both Oversea Under Stone and The Dark is Rising before you read the one about the Green Man, but that's not the publication order. So anyway, Spinning Silver is another one I pulled for the Folklore February. And I also have Uprooted by Naomi Novak. These books are my other sister's books, and she's been really wanting me to read them. So she'll be thrilled if I get to both in February. I might. And actually, I think the first 2 books of folktales and stuff are also books that she sent. So she might be really happy with my TBR by the end of this one. Alright, and then this one I got from, I think, a free shelf. Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister by Gregory McGuire. I also have Wicked somewhere. I've finished all the rest of the series that Wicked is the first book for, but I haven't read Wicked. So I don't know if it's possible to spoil Wicked, seeing as it's a retelling of anyway, yeah, it is 4 o'clock in the morning. Those are my TBR for sure. The books behind me, this stack and this stack, are also possible TBR books. And I won't pull them all out. That is maybe overkill. Some of them are carryovers from last month. I have Maya Gia in the Dark. This is one from my sister. The Song of Names by Norman Lebrecht. Raven's Wing by Joyce Carol Oates. Hannah Arendt's The Human Condition, The 5 Confucian Classics, which is a nonfiction book that I got for a class. Same class as Sources of Chinese Tradition, that's down here. Breast and Eggs by Miyako Kawakami, also from my sister, and she is thrilled that I'm going to finally read it. The Turkish Gambit and Sister Pelagia and the White Bulldog, both by Boris Akunin, from my other sister. The Real Macaw by Donna Andrews. So you'll notice most of this little section, with the exception of Turkish Gambit, are kind of Valentine's colors. So I was trying to get into the spirit of Valentine's Day with those. From Donna Andrews down, they are murder mysteries, because I still do intend to keep counting my murder mysteries, and I will do an update video at the end of February probably, counting up what I've done so far for my 500 mysteries reading challenge. So Donna Andrews, The Real Macaw, Nursing Homes or Murder by Mike Beffler, Low Profile by Nick Oldham, Corpse at the Crystal Palace by Carola Dunn, Curtains for the Cardinal by somebody with the last name Iyer. And then over here we have Unnatural Causes by P.D. James. I've read several P.D. James, so this is another author I've been working on. Killing the Story by Timoris Greco. It's a nonfiction book about journalism in Mexico. I think connected with a lot of the killings that have been going on in Mexico in the drug war down there. So that one's interesting. That was one I got from a giveaway. And Under a Dark Sky, Confident Women, and Dead Letters are also books I got as giveaway prize books that I have had for a while and need to finish. So that's another project that's going on, finishing the books I've already gotten as Goodreads giveaways. Under a Dark Sky is by Lori Radar Day. Confident Women is by Tori Telfer. Dead Letters is by Kate Dolan Leach. And then we have The Tome for December. So you remember the 3-volume Capital that was in my Tomes video? That's what got picked for February. I will be reading Karl Marx Capital, all 3 volumes in February, or at least starting it in February. And the first one is a reread, so that should go pretty quickly. I do remember that the notes section on that one is huge, so the actual book isn't nearly as fat as it looks. Anyway, so I will start that soon. And then I have some carryovers, because I didn't really get a lot of reading done for the past and future readathon for January. So the books that I pulled for that one, for the most part, I'm just carrying over into February, because I didn't mean to read them, I just didn't have time to get to them and do the other things I was doing. So that is the Airman's Odyssey trilogy by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, and Britain Yesterday and Today, which is a history book on Britain that was my mother's when she was in college. So that one's the oldest book on your TBR prompt. I think it counts. And then Sources of Chinese Tradition Volume 2. I'm about halfway through Volume 1 as we speak. So I think that is the majority of my TBR for February. There will, of course, be other books that pop in as I get into different moods. There's all the books that I haven't finished yet that I am just going to continue reading and will hopefully finish. I know I'm not going to finish all the books I wanted to read for Adventure-a-thon this month. I'm working on it. There are going to be a couple that I just am not going to finish. So that's all right. They're started. I'm going to finish them. All of my library books are fair game on any TBR. If I have them, they have a ticking clock attached to them. They have to actually get done. So they are always fair game. I've already showed you all the physical library books I have in previous videos, so I won't show them here. But you will see them again if I finish them, because I will definitely talk about them when I finish them. Alright, so that is my TBR and kind of my projects going on for February. A bit of a long video. Probably the longest video that I will have uploaded so far. I'm dreading seeing how long this is going to take. But I'm going to get back to reading. There will be more videos coming. I've been inspired by several other people's tag videos. I haven't done one of those in quite a while. I will talk about my projects in more detail in a separate video while that is a thing. I definitely have to do a wrap-up video for January. That will come up after January is already over, because I will be only reluctantly admitting that it's over when it's over. Until then, I'm still reading in January. So I won't be able to do an wrap-up video until it's actually done. I think that's the majority. I will probably do a separate video once I finished a couple books for the Dublin Literary Award reading project, and talk about that more once I've got a few books under my belt. Yeah. Sounds like a pretty busy lineup for videos. I'll see a lot of folks on reading sprints coming up soon. Yeah. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Check the description for all the information about readathons and reading events going on. I didn't talk about the Jante's Inferno readathon yet. That one starts on the 6th of February. I love the idea of it. I will probably participate, but I'm not far enough along in planning for that one to know what my TBR looks like for that one. And it doesn't start till the 6th. So I will talk about that one closer to when it starts. But I'll put the information for that one in the description as well. So if you are interested in it, you have that link available as well. That one is hosted by Jan Agaton, I believe. It is late. My eyes are saying it is time for bed. That'll be in the description as well. And I will provide the channel info for Katie from I Would Rather Be Reading, since she is the one whose sprints we were in when discussing that we're going to be reading this Stephen King book. So if there's anything else I forgot, or if there's anything that you want me to add in the description, mention it in the comments. I will add things as I think of them, because obviously 4 o'clock, getting on towards 5. I'm not going to guarantee I remember everything that needs to go into the description before you see this video. Catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.